So I'm pleased to welcome on the Quad Interviews my friend, Executive Director of the Lawfare Project and leader of the movement End Jew Hatred, Brooke Goldstein.
Fleur, I'm so happy to be here.
It's great having you, Brooke. You're doing such great work in America. So I want you I know you're involved in so many things. The Lawfare Project is suing, everyone who's been significantly anti-Israel on campus, amongst other things. So things are different from what they were a year ago with the new Trump administration. I want to first of all start by asking you, what are the things that you're still focused on, and how has the change of administration changed the atmosphere?
Well, first of all, I want to say what an admirer I am of your work and what an honor it is to be here today with you in Jerusalem.
Well, we wanted to get you as a co-panelist on the show, but it didn't work out timing-wise. But next time, you're coming on the extended show.
I'd love to. So, to your first question, first of all, what we're doing is not really like pro-Israel. It's not about anti-Israel. It's about anti-Jewish. Yeah. And we need to make sure that we understand what is happening right now, which is wide-scale civil rights violations against Jewish communities around the world. And, every lawsuit we bring is different.
Yeah.
Every lawsuit has its own plaintiff, its own set of facts. But there's one common denominator, and that's that our clients are being treated differently because they are Jewish. And no matter the litany of excuses, I don't hate Jews, I just, hate Israel.
Anti-Zionism, not anti-Jew.
I'm just an anti-Zionist. Yeah. The more that we respond to anti-Jewish discrimination, beating up Jews on campus, hostile environments against Jews all over the place, discrimination, illegal commercial discrimination, the more we respond to that with pro-Israel advocacy, the more we're giving them an affirmative defense to discriminate against us. So we need to be very clear. This is a civil rights issue. We are dealing with civil rights violations.
Okay. So where do we see those civil rights violations? We've seen them on campus. Where else? Because we're not that aware over here. Where else this is going on?
Unfortunately, we are seeing it everywhere. We are seeing it in hospitals. We represent Jewish doctors and nurses who are being retaliated against. Obviously, we're talking about
for their political beliefs.
For being Jewish.
No.
Listen, Hamas did not ask those whom it slaughtered, who they voted for, where they were on the religious, secular Orthodox. Our enemies don't care.
Yes.
We are the ones who are dividing ourselves on political partisan lines. And that's why the End Jew Hatred movement, the message of it is so central that we have to unite under the banner of ending Jew hatred. Period. I don't care, if you're pro-Bibi, anti-Bibi, pro-Netanyahu.
Makes no difference. They don't care.
Pro-Trump, anti. If you're for reform, anti-reform.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because it's a civil rights issue. It's about standing up for yourself as a Jewish person, as a minority deserved of equal protection, regardless of what's happening thousands of miles away. It is not an excuse.
Exactly.
Hating Israel is not an excuse to target Jewish people and to discriminate against us. And that's where we need a paradigm shift because we need to stand up for ourselves and use the same tools and tactics as other civil rights movements have done successfully. And it's not pro-Israel. It's not political advocacy.
It should have nothing to do with it. In fact, they defeat their own point. Because by being anti-Semitic, and I know you say anti-Jewish hatred, and I think it's important that you kind of coined that call to action. I love the fact that your movement is also a call to action, End Jew Hatred. Because a lot of people don't understand it. A lot of people don't even know the word anti-Semitism. And I think it's important because what they're saying is, no, we don't hate Jews. We only hate Israel, or we only hate Netanyahu, or we only hate the right-wing government. But at the same time, they're discriminating against Jews.
Exactly. I mean, these are just classical excuses. Let's go into the terminology.
Please.
Because words are everything.
Absolutely.
And we have this habit of adopting the terminology of our enemy and then, arguing within their paradigm on the defense.
Totally
right?
agree
So
with you.
even like two-state solution.
Yeah.
Right? There's no such thing as a two-state solution.
Yeah.
Creating another Islamist state in a sea of failed Islamist dictatorships is not a solution to anything. There's no occupation. You can't occupy what you own. There's no settlements or settler. There are Jewish people, Jewish
and
homes.
Communities. Absolutely.
And we use this term anti-Semitism, right? And we don't even know where it comes from. Anti-Semitism, right, it was invented by German eugenicists as a pseudo-intellectual way of describing how they think all of the Semitic races, not just the Jews, but all of the Semitic races are inferior to the Caucasians. And when you go and you call someone anti-Semitic, they don't even flinch anymore. But when we call it what it is, which is Jew hatred. If you are against hatred against blacks, against hatred against gays, against hatred against women, so too must you be against hatred against Jews, or you are the bigot. And when we describe our advocacy as pro-Israel, what we do is we immediately set up a binary, right?
You're right.
I'm pro-Israel, there's pro-Palestinian, or there's anti-Israel. If I'm an objective person, I need to hear both sides, your truth, his truth, and come somewhere in the middle. But there's no two truths about ending Jew hatred, which is the oldest hatred that we know. We are the oldest, most persecuted minority community in human history.
Absolutely.
Right? And so what does it mean? Can we even end Jew hatred? What does that mean? Right? So you look at how we launched the End Jew Hatred movement based on a deep dive study we did of the successful tactics and strategies and organization of successful civil rights, minority rights movements in the 21st century.
Right.
And, Black Lives Matter didn't get rid of anti-Black racism. And the Me Too movement did not get rid of male misogyny. But what they did is they created social, political, legal consequences for behavior that they don't want to see. And they suppressed it by creating a deterrent effect, right? Nobody wants to be like Harvey Weinstein, so they deter their behavior.
Right.
And what successful civil rights movements do is you use a combination of impact litigation, going to the courts, making the change you want to see, enforcing and changing law, and social tactics, changing the culture. Litigation is not enough. You have to change the culture.
The brand almost.
Exactly. And creating social consequences for that behavior, whether it's protest, whether it's other direct actions, mobilization against, Jew haters in a way that ensures that there are consequences for their behavior. So when we say end Jew hatred, we mean impose legal and other consequences, because for far too long, Jew hatred has gone without significant consequences. And that requires a real offensive legal and mobilization strategy.
Brooke, why? Why has it gone without any consequences? Because of Israel? Because they thought, we're just, it's our right, freedom of speech to talk about Israel, and then let's bung in the Jews along with it. Why has being Jewish, being discriminated against for being Jewish, not ever received the same type of consequences or legal, response?
So I love the why questions because I'm not a psychiatrist.
Okay.
I don't know the why, but I know the what. So if you look at the facts, we really haven't been blessed with the means and the ability to impose real consequences. But now we have the truth on our side. We have the law on our side. We're blessed with the state of Israel. We're blessed, those of us who live in the United States, to take advantage of a fair, impartial judicial system and a history of civil rights law. So that's why I say really the time is now for a Jewish civil rights movement. And then you were speaking about, what has changed after October the 7th?
Yeah.
Jews, number one, have unified with a shared purpose, but also we have shed the fear of standing up for ourselves because we see the necessity of it, that there is more to fear doing nothing, allowing the campuses to continue, happening. We've buried our heads in the sand for at least 10, 15 years, and we've been too afraid to stand up against it, against the spread of radicalism and theologically motivated terrorism and radical Islam.
Why were we afraid?
Because
Did we think it was politically correct?
Correct. You have what I call the Islamophobomania campaign.
Yes.
Okay. So after 9/11, which was our first wake-up call,
Yeah.
we all went to sleep again.
Yeah.
And that's not just when the Jews woke up, but the Western society woke up. We were asking, what is this? Suicide, homicide, terrorism? Why do they hate us? When the real question should have been, why do they hate life and love death? And why are they teaching their children in schools from K through 12 and on this radical version of Islamism that values jihad over liberal values. Why is this happening? How did we let this happen?
And why are the liberals behind it, of all people?
Correct. And this, well, the traditional, alliance of the, Islamist and the extreme right genocidal with the progressive woke ideology coming from the communist Zionism, anti-Semitism, that is the alliance that we're seeing right now. But we couldn't talk about this.
Yeah.
We couldn't write articles about it because it was Islamophobic. It was anti-Muslim, which is so curious to me because, having done a film risking my life, right, to expose human rights abuses against Muslim children and women under Islamism, if that's anti-Islam, or anti-Muslim, what then is pro-Muslim? And isn't that the bigotry of low expectations?
Absolutely.
That, people like Bret Stephens used to talk about all the time.
And that's what people do with the Palestinians as well.
We were politically corrected into total silence and complicity while this was festering in our schools, and the government and human rights organizations and civil society totally turned a blind eye to it. And now we have the foreseeable result of this. When I was on Fox News just a couple days after the October 7th terrorist attack, I was asked, are you surprised at all this pro-Hamas terror support on campus? And the answer is no. Because people like me and you, Fleur, have been warning about this for years, and we've been called radical extremist, anti-Muslim, crazy, and now we woke up again, unfortunately, on October the 7th. Why does it take a genocidal pogrom to wake us all up? I don't know. But we woke up again. And now, whereas it used to be difficult to get students to sign on to cases and to stand up for themselves, now, unfortunately, we have more cases than we can even handle.
Oh, wow. So give me an example of some of the cases that you're dealing with right now, maybe the most extreme ones.
So right now, we are suing Columbia University, and that has gotten a lot of press attention. President Trump and his administration has announced that they are withholding over $400 million of federal funding for violation of Title VI under the Civil Rights Act. We are suing the school on behalf of a Jewish student who was subjected to a terribly hostile environment. I mean, hostile environment it's not even the right words. I mean, she could not go to school. There were so many threats of violence against Jews. She felt uncomfortable to go to school. The school then denied her special accommodations, Zoom accommodations, even though when they let students go take Zoom classes if they have to go to the dentist.
So
they wouldn't allow a Jewish student a Zoom accommodation because she did not feel safe on campus.
So they wouldn't protect her, and they didn't give her an accommodation.
Correct. And plus retaliation and anti-Semitism. So that's our case against Columbia University.
And Mahmoud Khalil was the mastermind behind all of this. And did you see his statement a couple of days ago that he was never anti-Semitic?
Again,
the
honestly, litany of excuses. Okay, so you're just pro-terror. And frankly, being the spokesperson for a pro-Hamas encampment doesn't immunize you from your illegal criminal allegedly activities of being the alleged organizer of these violent pro-terror encampments that have also potentially been linked as being alleged in a lawsuit now with foreign designated terrorist groups.
Absolutely. And getting instructions and getting congratulations letters. That's the evidence now to link him to the actual Hamas organization. Okay, so this is absolutely incredible to think that in this day and age, there's a kid who's scared to go to college because they're Jewish.
In America.
In America, exactly. What else are we looking at apart from college?
Okay, so we are very proud. Actually, one of the reasons why I'm here in Israel is to meet our plaintiffs. We represent over 80 of the Israeli victims of the Amsterdam pogrom who traveled to Amsterdam, were subjected to, as you know, violent assaults. Pogrom, exactly.
Who are they suing? The city?
So we are about to file our civil lawsuit, and we will send you all the details when you do, but rest assured we will have justice served here. I mean, it is completely unacceptable that there was an organized, premeditated, intentional pogrom against the Jews in Amsterdam, and they were not only attacked but not provided the proper protections that they were afforded, that they had to hide in their hotel rooms as fire bombs were being thrown through the window or herded into main downtown Amsterdam squares where they were beaten by dozens and dozens of the assailants is completely unacceptable.
Well, this is what makes it a pogrom, that the authorities themselves not only didn't protect them, but allegedly were part of the lynches that we saw. I mean, that's what...
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to get to the bottom of what happened here. And that is most important, to shed light on incidents like these. We represent, as I mentioned before, doctors and nurses who are discriminated against in hospitals. We represent Israeli companies and persons who are subjected to illegal commercial boycotts.
Really? It's just I guess it's the impunity of just discriminating against Jews.
Right. And again, that time is over, right?
It's over.
Enter the Lawfare Project, enter the End Jew Hatred movement, which is like this 1-2 punch where we have impact litigation, civil rights litigation on behalf of Jewish communities and people around the world who are illegally discriminated against, plus the strategic mobilization of Jewish communities to fight for themselves, right? We stand up for Israel. We have pro-Israel advocacy, but the time is for Jewish communities to organize on a local level and stand up for themselves. And that's what we do. We empower them to do that with financial resources, with pro bono legal support, and obviously with strategic advice on how to mobilize effectively for the change you want to see.
That's incredible, Brooke. Really, the work is amazing and life-changing for so many people. Is it easier now that Trump is in office?
Was it ever easy?
Never been. Nothing's ever easy.
Well, now that Trump is in office, what we are able to do is have the confidence that there is an administration who's willing to enforce the law. The rule of law is paramount for the free existence of a healthy democratic society. And frankly, this is not about the Jews. This is about the future of America, the future of democracy, the future of our liberal democracy and our values. Yeah. And those are what's being attacked. It's not just anti-Jewish, it's anti-Jewish, anti-American, anti-freedom curriculum that are being taught. And when you have a government that signals it's going to start enforcing the law, that is the first step. The second step now must be an investigation into how we got here in the first place. And you saw, for example, the recent press conference with President Trump and Netanyahu as well, Prime Minister Netanyahu, where President Trump really emphasized how important it is now to bring America back to the place where it should be, whether it's the border, whether it's economically, whether it's ensuring that within our country we don't have designated terrorist groups and foreign hostile governments coordinating mass insurrections and violence. It's really all tied to the same thing of bringing us back to the place that we need to be.
And that the government isn't funding it through USAID.
Exactly. I mean, how insane.
Unbelievable.
Funding USAID, funding UNRWA, the United Nations Relief Works Agency, giving grants to, so-called nonprofits that are stirring up violence and inciting violence on the streets of the United States. Right?
It's almost ridiculous to think that there's been such infiltration without anybody even noticing.
Well, that's why we need investigations. And it's intentional, not just infiltration.
Yes.
How about investigating into how or when the Biden administration funded or otherwise coordinated with entities within Israel to sow similar domestic chaos and violence?
The protests.
It must be, we complain in the United States about Russiagate foreign influence. Was the United States government under the Biden administration trying to unseat Netanyahu?
Well, it was more obvious when Chuck Schumer came out and actually called for bringing down Netanyahu, a democratically elected leader of a country that isn't his own. How abhorrent. It's abhorrent that instead of calling for the downfall of the leadership of Hamas, he was calling the downfall of the leadership of Netanyahu. And I think that everybody understands that the new sheriff in town. But let me ask you something which is more probably a long-term project for you and for other wonderful souls like you. What's going on in the American educational system? You spoke about K through 12. How do you see that getting flushed out? Because that's so inbred. It's so in depth there in the in the American education system, you've got the unions. Such an uphill struggle that. How do you see that panning out?
Well, like most issues that we're facing, we have to have both a top-down and bottom-up strategy. So in terms of top-down, as I referenced prior, there has to be a total government-led, Department of Education-led examination and overhaul of curriculum that is shown to be anti-American and anti-Semitic and anti-whatever else values that we don't want to see in our curriculum. We have to completely cease, and we have to control, and we have to close all of the loopholes when it comes to foreign funding into the curriculum, into our Middle Eastern Studies departments, our diversity, equity, inclusion departments, critical race theory. We have to examine that, shut it down, and rewrite the curriculum. If you want to see what a society is going to look like in 15 years, go look at what they're teaching the kids in school, right?
Absolutely.
So, and number two, the bottom-up approach. So that's what we do with the End Jew Hatred movement. We have chapters right now all over the United States and in Canada as well, where parents are being empowered to review the curriculum that's being taught in their schools, to run for school boards and try and successfully, and they are successfully, change the curriculum from within. We've had End Jew Hatred activists force teachers to be fired from schools when they're shown to be anti-Jewish. We've changed curricula from within. That's how it has to be done. We have to empower ourselves and take control. You know, it used to be that if you wanted to fight anti-Semitism, you'd write a check to one of the, amazing organizations that we have, and they would take care of it for us. But that is no longer what can be the strategy. We have to evolve, and we have to have, again, also a 1-2 punch. These major big bucks organizations doing a wonderful job. But every Jewish mother, father, sister, brother, cousin, taxi cab driver, teacher, doctor, nurse, it doesn't matter, has to be activated and empowered. And that is the essence.
Take the power back.
And that is the essence of the movement.
I mean, you think as a parent, and we're both parents, that you can trust the system. And the system has completely warped everything, hasn't it?
Yes, especially when it comes to what they're teaching in our schools. It's quite scary.
It's very scary. And then you see what goes on in college campuses and you think, okay, now it makes sense. I've been indoctrinated for God knows how long. And this is the result of that.
Right. And we're also focused on our advocacy on college campuses, but we got to start K through 12. Because once they're on colleges, it's too late. And so that's why it's so important for everyone watching this podcast, go look at the curriculum that your child is being taught, have a voice, empower yourself, join the parent-teacher association, join the school boards, and have your voice heard. And if you want help with that, we will help you. You don't have to do it alone. Contact us. We will connect you with attorneys. We will connect you with other activists to teach you how to mobilize yourself.
Incredible, Brooke. Well, you heard it here first. If you are a concerned parent, this wonderful lady and her incredible End Jew Hatred movement can actually help. So what are you doing here, Brooke, apart from, breathing in the Holy Land? What type of work are you doing with Israel?
So I don't work with the Israeli government.
Probably best.
Really here. I'll tell you, today I'm going to go to the wall. And I'm going to put a prayer in the wall, because really when I come to Israel, first and foremost, it's a spiritual experience. It's an opportunity for me just to be so grateful that we have the Jewish state, to experience sovereignty, to experience the people. The food is incredible. So I want to enjoy myself here, especially for the Passover holidays. But of course, we have some work mixed in with that. I went to the Hostage Forum Square, if you can believe it, for the first time yesterday.
And what were your impressions?
So the most powerful part was they set up a tunnel, a replica of the tunnel.
Oh, they did, yes.
Walking through the tunnel. And they also have an audio there of what it must feel like being there while the Israelis are bombing on the one hand, and also while you're being held captive and you hear footsteps in the tunnels. And it was such a powerful experience, because usually when we obviously go through these museums, whether it's a Holocaust museum, it's about the past. And this is now a museum of contemporaneous genocide.
Oh, yeah. And contemporaneous Holocaust. These hostages are going through their own Holocaust, and they're going through it right now.
And to see their circles, it was so, pogroms are not new. right? We had one in Amsterdam. We've had them throughout our history.
Absolutely.
Living in the diaspora.
Thousands
Have we
of
had
years.
a contemporaneous way to heal while a pogrom or a genocide is ongoing? And I think that's what this square is, which is remarkable. I'm sure you've been, but for those of you who haven't, there are testimony circles that you can just join where people form circles around the parents of hostages or people who have survived and come back so they can continue to tell stories about what's happened. I was fortunate enough to be invited into the room of the family room. It's just amazing. The strength, I lost it, obviously, but the strength of our people and how we, come round and help each other is remarkable.
I think it's remarkable and pretty unique. And I don't think people realize that really, honestly, that's our success. That's the secret of our success, that we really get it together, come through as a family and as a tribe. And I think you started this interview, and you're so correct. Our enemies don't care what our political beliefs are. Our enemies don't care if we're observant Jews or non-observant Jews, if we're Reform, Orthodox, Conservative. They don't care. And this is why we all have to be fighting together. You also wrote a great book that I want to give a plug to, End Jew Hatred, where you explain really your offense and how it is that your movement is working. And I want to just finish and say, give us your prediction for the year. Give us some optimism, some light.
Well, if we continue to do what we're doing now, if we continue to work together, unified, and use the right strategies and tactics, I'm optimistic. But if we go back to where we were before October 7th, and this message is for Israelis as much as it is for the Jewish community in the diaspora, because I see now, again, the politicization of the hostage forum, the politicization of the issues. It is so dangerous. I have to say that when I saw the hashtag bring them home, right, I really wish, and my good friend Tila Falak, I'm going to credit her for this, I wish it was hashtag let them go.
I've been saying this for a year and a half, Brooke.
The onus is on them.
Yeah.
Okay. And we are being put in this impossible situation where human beings, they have a directive that if the Israelis advance, they will kill, and they have murdered and executed the hostages when they knew or they thought they were imminently going to be rescued. And this is an impossible situation, and the world's focus is on us. And we are the victims here.
Yeah.
Let them go. The entirety of the pressure has to be on Hamas. We have to avoid the politicization of this issue and the division of our society. That is so obvious. If we haven't learned that lesson already, God help us.
I agree with you. I had the same conversation with Elon Levy on his podcast about the let them go and bring them home and what that does. But honestly, Brooke, looking in the mirror, it's the fact that we really don't have here a communication strategy. So things get taken because there's no leadership on communications, because the communications war is not taken seriously enough. I mean, I could do a whole episode on this.
But the algorithms are against us. And CNN, even if we had the best communications, and we do have the best communicators, and the truth is on our side, they are purposefully, intentionally misreporting on the facts. I was just today on the BBC website, even the use of the imagery.
Oh, it's
the
awful.
fact that I think it was the AP allegedly went and took a photograph by one of the Hamas photographers embedded within Hamas while they were carrying out the genocide, as this is the photograph of the year.
They made a photograph of the year, the lifeless body of the poor.
So this is an uphill battle, and the whole notion we have such bad PR. There's something we should be doing better.
No, but we don't control the messaging. But we don't plan the messaging.
If our job is not to convince everyone to love Israel, right? Our job is not to defeat the anti-Semites on some debate, on Berkeley's stage and to argue within their paradigm on the defensive. Our job is to do what we need to do, regardless of what the media's opinion is, to safeguard the security of the state of Israel and the security of Jewish lives around the world. That is our job. And we need to care less about how that will be seen and act from a place what we know is moral and true.
100%
and to
agree
engage in Jewish empowerment. So listen, when I first founded the Lawfare Project and we filed our first lawsuits, we didn't get support from the major, except for Malcolm Hoenlein and from Ronald Lauder. Okay, but beyond that, we did not have support from major Jewish organizations. In fact, one of those now defunct left-wing Jewish organizations, the white male CEO, called me up and started yelling and screaming at me. Who do you think you are? You're filing lawsuits. You're too aggressive. You're causing anti-Semitism.
Yes.
You're giving the impression that Jews are moneyed up and we're silencing pro-Palestinian free speech. Nevertheless, he said, I'm negotiating behind the scenes for these students. These are the students you claim to be negotiating for that are coming to me for legal representation because nothing is getting done.
We're doing things behind the scenes. That's always the excuse of not doing anything.
Shed this whole notion of, will everybody love us if we do this? Jewish empowerment.
I don't believe
what's right for us.
No, I'm saying something different. I'm not saying people need to love us. I'm saying that we're also fighting a communications war, and we don't have a strategy, we don't have headquarters, and we don't have generals.
But the communications war will fail when we do things like take every man, woman, child and exhume the dead bodies of every Jew that lived in Gaza because we think this is going to be the best way to convince everybody that we want peace and that we're for a so-called Palestinian state. The strategic mistakes that we make on the ground in order to appease terrorism and appease world opinion, and also send the subconscious message that we don't believe that we have legal title to be sovereign over this land. It's what we do, I think, which causes the impression of who we are. And we must focus on the doing what is necessary and right and morally correct and legal to protect the citizens of this country and all Jews around the world.
I definitely agree with you. I think people respect you more when you respect yourself. And we've been turning ourselves into a pretzel to be loved, to be validated. And I think October 7th was a huge wake-up call. And it's good that you were already there before, dealing with this issue, trying to end Jew hatred and going on offense. I think enough with defense. It didn't work.
Amen.
Thank you so much for being here in the studios. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you, Fleur. The pleasure was mine.